Hello and welcome to one and all for the webinar series dedicated to the discussions about mountaineering after the lockdown, hosted by Akhil Maharashtra Giryarohan Mahasangh. For today's talk, we have with us a dashing Sukhoi fighter pilot of the Indian Air Force, an avant-garde mountaineer, and a dynamic administrator, Wing Commander Devidutta Panda. He has scaled Mount Everest in 2011 and have also summited 4 of the 7 highest summits of the world. He has led an alpine-style expedition to Mount Papasura, which is 6,440 meters in height, powered by the Indian Mountaineering Foundation. He has been awarded the prestigious Biju Patnaik Bravery Award for his significant contribution to the field of mountaineering and Indian Air Force. He is currently serving as the Vice Principal of the Himalayan Mountaineering Institute, Darjeeling, and been guiding the budding mountaineers of the field. As we all are eager about, let's listen to this exemplary leader, Wing Commander Devidutta Panda.
Today we'll talk about mountaineering after lockdown. This COVID pandemic has affected all aspects of human life, and mountaineering is no exception. Climbing season in the Himalaya may be divided into 2 distinct parts. That is pre-monsoon from March to May and post-monsoon from September to November. Most of the mountaineering and related activities, that is trekking, rock climbing, etc., could not be carried out during the pre-monsoon season due to outbreak of COVID and associated lockdown. How our life in general and mountaineering activities in particular would take shape in the future depends on the spread of the virus and how effectively it would be controlled once lockdown restrictions are lifted. Here I have examined 2 likely scenarios and how they might affect mountaineering in India. Scenario 1. All restrictions of lockdown are lifted, life gets back to normal. If restrictions on road, rail, air movement and social distancing are removed, most aspects of life would be the way they were before the pandemic. However, I don't think people would bounce back to mountaineering and other activities. These are expensive pursuits. Equipment, transportation, portraits, etc. add up to significant amount. The lockdown has broken the back of the economy and many people have lost their jobs and sources of income. Few people would have sufficient disposable income to pursue a hobby during such time. Further, most of the schools, offices, industries and businesses were shut during the lockdown. Everyone would try to catch up with the lost time once the lockdown has been lifted. People would find it difficult to ever leave or off from work to pursue mountaineering. Further, most of the people are now afraid of being infected by the COVID and would voluntarily avoid traveling, mass gathering and crowded places. I presume there would be no considerable rush for these activities during the post-monsoon season of 2020. Many course participants who had registered with mountaineering institutes before the pandemic may now cancel or postpone at the last moment. There is always a silver lining to any storm cloud. People who have lost their job or would be out of business for some time, that is tourism, restaurant, gym, etc., would have a lot of spare time in hand. Few of them who may afford would utilize this time to fulfill their long cherished dream of undertaking some activity which they had not been able to indulge in due to paucity of time. Mountaineering institutes have started receiving query from such people to get admission into a course. From Mountaineering Institute's point of view, there would be no difficulty in conducting courses once the restrictions are lifted. Now, looking at the second scenario. Lockdown lifted partially without restriction on movement, but restriction on mass gathering and social distancing norms being strictly followed. This scenario might bring in some additional difficulties in addition to those during scenario 1. Mountaineering and related activities may be broken down into various stages, that is, planning and preparation, movement from place of residence to roadhead, and the actual wilderness activity. These are the 3 distinct stages of any mountaineering or related activity. At the end of the activity, similar stages have to be followed in a reverse manner. Now, let's analyze the effects of the restriction on each stage. First is planning and preparation. This involves research about peak, trekking route or rock face, obtaining various permits, insurance, transportation and accommodation arrangements, procurement of ration, equipment, clothing, etc. I don't envisage much problem in this regard. In fact, the lockdown has been a blessing in disguise in many ways. Much of the work related to permission and documentation with government departments have become online. Therefore, it may become little easier to obtain various permissions from IMF, forest, police, etc. There may not be much problem with procurement, packing and other prediction or other preparations also. Now movement from your place of residence to roadhead. For this, transportation and accommodation arrangements till roadhead could be an issue. If social distancing norms are strictly followed, then only fixed number of people would be allowed while traveling and hotel accommodation. This could push the corresponding tariffs too high. Looking at the actual wilderness activity, most of the social distancing protocols are maintained by default during most of the wilderness activities. For example, about 10 to 15 meters of distance is maintained between members of a rope team while walking on glacier. During ice wall, technical climb or rock climb, there is a significant distance between bearer and climber. Trekkers also always maintain more than 2 meters distance from each other while walking on a wilderness trail for the sake of convenience. The main problem what I can envisage while social distancing restrictions could be accommodation in the wilderness. Horizontal space available to pitch a tent and quantity of tents that could be carried to high mountains is very limited. It's a normal thing for 3 people to sleep in a 2-man tent in a high camp. Carrying too many tents to high altitude and making only 1 person sleep in a tent would be next to impossible. So what could be done till things normalize? A mountaineer always yearns to go back to the icy slopes, to enjoy the brilliance of stars at high altitude, the glow of moonlight on snow, the distinctive sound of crampons on ice, and the tinkling of carabiners as they move. It may be some time before a mountaineer can enjoy this freedom again. In the interim, many other related preparatory activities could be carried out. Mountaineering and related wilderness activities require good physical fitness, skill, and knowledge. An average person requires about 6 to 8 months of structured physical training to gain adequate physical fitness level, required to venture into the mountains with confidence and without getting fatigued, and to be able to enjoy the activity. Such training must have taken a backseat for most of the people during the lockdown. Various skills such as rope work, map reading, rescue techniques, rock climbing, belaying, rappelling, etc. may be honed at any place. Even many snow and ice climbing skills such as route opening, rope fixing, lead climbing, alpine climbing, etc. could be practiced in an open field or slope anywhere on the earth. For practicing these techniques, a rock piton could be used instead of snow bar or tubular piton. In fact, during normal times also, a mountaineer should practice these techniques in comfort and safety of his home before venturing into the high mountains. Improving knowledge regarding mountains, lay of the land, high altitude illnesses, wilderness first aid, use of various equipment and clothing, high altitude food, etc. take a lot of time, and a positive outcome of the lockdown has been visible and significant reduction in pollution level worldwide. It has made mankind realize that pollution is of our own making and can be controlled by our concerted effort. It is a common knowledge that all the mountain ranges have become high altitude garbage dump. Mountaineers and trekkers leave garbage in the wilderness when they lack requisite fitness, as bringing back garbage costs significant amount of money and energy. The climbers struggling to move on the slopes would never think twice before throwing garbage down and will not put the effort of bringing it back for proper disposal. Using this time to improve physical fitness and the positive feedback of lessen pollution may result in reduction of garbage at high altitude in future. Further, the lockdown has also got people used to managing their lives with few items by reducing their needs. The best place to extend this habit is the mountains. If people carry lesser stuff to the mountains, they would leave less garbage behind. Traditionally, Indians abhor an alpine style climb, which is a no-frill, fast ascent with very small team and without taking help of Sherpas or high altitude porters. These expeditions also cost much lesser than the usual expedition style climbs. The main components required for alpine style climbs are very high level of physical fitness, technical skill and knowledge. This is similar to normal climbs, but the level is much higher than expedition style climbs. If this time is utilized properly to hone these skills, mountaineers from India may also take more interest in such type of climbs. As such climbs are minimalistic in nature, the habit formed during lockdown could come in handy. Such expedition also would create lesser garbage as alpine style expedition climbers carry very less amount of stuff with them. This is a very unprecedented time that we are going through, but this too shall pass. And the time is not very far when we can go back to the mountains with full force. We can also spend this time to think about various new kind of climb in different unexplored areas and unexplored routes that we always wanted to climb. So let's use this as a blessing in disguise. Thank you so much. May you climb from peak to peak.